Good evening, everyone, and welcome into episode 26 of the Forge Podcast, presented by Shotgun Sports Network Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. My name is Ryan Messer, and we've got a lot to get into. The Bulls had a big week this past week. The Squadron had a pair of games. The Bulls, I know, had some transactions. The Stallions had transactions. And we did find out the coaching staff for this season for the Birmingham Barons as well. So before we get too far into all of that, I want to thank you guys for watching, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're listening to us on iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Audible. Can't thank you guys enough for your feedback on some of our posts, commenting, just all the interactions that you've been doing on the Shotgun Sports Network Alabama YouTube, Facebook, and all. It's been great. Appreciate the support. But we also have to say thank you to a couple folks, such as Blue Spring Living Water. They've been keeping us hydrated for nearly a year now, so can't wait to start another year with these guys. They want to keep you guys hydrated too. It's naturally minerally enriched water that is tapped right out of Blount County, Alabama, and it's bottled right at the source. So make sure you take a step toward a healthier life with Blue Spring Living Water and get it either delivered right to your door or you can find it at your local grocer. Another thing is, with all of the things that's been going on, there's been a bunch of worry about cybersecurity. So make sure that you're browsing securely with NordVPN, and you can get a good discount if you click the link in the description. They will give you a good discount on that. So keep all of your devices safe with NordVPN. And with that, this is episode 26 of the Forge Podcast. Leading things off with the Birmingham Bulls, who had a few transactions over the past week. On the 17th, we saw that Hayden Ford came back from his turf toe injury there. So glad to have him back because Lotzie was getting kind of beat up, having to start every single game. So glad to have him back. We also did waive Daniel Davidson. So wish him the best wherever he might find himself. And then yesterday we found out that left winger Aiden Litka was signed to a standard contract, and then they traded defenseman Hayden Ford to Macon. Then we saw on Friday they went up to Roanoke for a couple of games up there this past weekend. Started things off with Tyler Roy in the net for the Rail Yard Dogs and Stewie in the net for the Bulls. Then we saw just 4:19 into the game, we saw Ryan Romeo drop gloves with Nick Ford of Roanoke. And then just 5 minutes later, we saw the Bulls on the power play for a hook. Unable to capitalize on that, the Rail Yard Dogs did score with just 2:43 left to play in the first. In the first, they did leave the Bulls with shots on goal by just 3. But then in the second, the Rail Yard Dogs did nearly double on shots on goal on the Bulls with 9 to 17. I apologize. And then even with that deficit of the shots on goal, the Bulls did hold off the Roanoke through the second period. In the third, Kip Ledzianko found the back of the net just under 8 minutes into the period. And then about a minute later, Ben Higgins scored a goal, putting the Bulls ahead there. The Bulls went on the power play with just over 6 to play in regulation. Then midway through the power play, Carson Rose did receive a double major for spearing, which he was later suspended for. So, unfortunate there. And then, unfortunately, they were able to capitalize and tie the game with less than a minute to play in regulation. So in overtime, the Bulls only allowed one shot before attacking that Roanoke goal. And finally scoring the game winner was Ben Higgins with just 3 minutes and 40 into the overtime period there. So good win for the Bulls on the road. We really needed it. And then on Saturday at Roanoke, we saw that Rudabush was in the net for the Rail Yard Dogs there, and then Lotzie in for the Bulls. Roanoke got things started by scoring just 7.5 into the opening period. 3 minutes later, the Bulls went on a penalty kill for a hold, and then midway through the penalty kill, Kazarev was charged with a delay, putting the Bulls on a 5-3 deficit. They did capitalize on the last one through the penalty kill, and then just over a minute later, the Bulls went on the power play for a high stick. Unable to capitalize on that, Ben Higgins was charged with spearing, receiving a major for the spear and then a double major for game misconduct with less than 2 to play in the opening period there. Just over 6 minutes into the second period, the Bulls went on the power play for interference, and Trevor Thurston was able to capitalize on that one midway through the power play just to cut the lead in half. And then with just under 7 to play in the second period, there were mutual roughing calls on each team. And then 3.5 later, the Bulls went on the power play for a slash. Unable to capitalize on that one, though. We did see 2 simultaneous penalty calls for each team there to start out the third period. Holding and roughing for the Bulls, and then cross-checking and roughing for the Rail Yard Dogs. With just 4 to play in the third, we did see the Bulls go back on the power play for a hold, and they did pull lots with 2 to play in regulation. Unfortunately, Drake Glover was called for a slash 11 seconds later, and they had to put him back in. But they did pull him again with 46 seconds left to play, but they just couldn't get it done. So, split the series on the road with Roanoke there. And then we had a game yesterday on MLK Day versus Huntsville at home. The game started out with Mike Robinson in the net for the Havoc and Stewie in for the Bulls. The Havoc got things started by pulling their goalie just 5 minutes into the game. Kind of strange there, but seconds later, Carson Rose was charged with a trip, sending Robinson back to the net. After a successful penalty kill, the Bulls went on the power play just a minute later for an elbow. The Bulls were unable to capitalize on that one, however. Taylor Brierly did find the net with just under 6 left to play in the opening period. Then with just going in just under 2 to play in the first period, there were penalties called on each team. Huntsville was charged with a slash, and Birmingham was charged with a roughing. And then 6.5 into the second period, Kyler Matthews dropped gloves with Connor Fries. And then 3 minutes later, Trevor Thurston was charged with a trip. And then after a successful penalty kill there, he was charged with an elbow with 4 minutes left to play in the second. And then they were able to capitalize on that midway through. And then opening up the final period of regulation, Ben Higgins did wind up scoring just 55 seconds in. And then with 4.5 left to play, Kyler Matthews was charged with a delay penalty. And then we did see the 3 minutes later, the Bulls went back on the power play for boarding, but they just killed the clock on that one. So right now, they are 15, 12, and 3. Huntsville's number 1, Peoria number 2, and Knoxville number 3. And the Bulls are sitting in 7th place. So got a long way to go. Still got a little bit of hockey to play. A lot of hockey to play. So we've got a trip up to Illinois for a 3-game road trip against the Peoria Rivermen this coming up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. If we can sweep that series, which hopefully with Hayden Stewart back, got a chance. We should be able to move up the rankings a little bit. Switching things over to the Birmingham Squadron, who had a trip up to Hoffman Estates, Illinois, to take on the Windy City Bulls on Wednesday. Starting out, Bulls quickly jumped out to a 4-point lead and maintained that for a while before stretching out to 7 midway through the opening quarter. The Squadron were able to cut that lead to 4 to close out the first. And then going into the second quarter, the Bulls went on a 6-point streak, putting the Bulls down and the Squadron down by 10. The Squadron did cut it to 4 before the Bulls went back on a 13-point run. And then the Squadron, just struggling to shoot there, wound up being down by 20 at the half. Coming out of the half, both teams went back and forth for the first few minutes before the Bulls went on another 7-point run. The Squadron did immediately go on a 12-point run themselves, cutting the lead to 13. But they did go back and forth for the rest of the third, with the Squadron down by 16 going into the final quarter. Cutting the lead to 11 to start off the fourth, we did see the Bulls go on a 13-point run before Coach Saint called a timeout to cut the momentum there. They went back and forth for a few minutes before the Bulls went on another 13-point run to the last 2 minutes of the game. And then the Squadron did answer with 6 points unanswered, but the Bulls were just killing the clock on their possessions as the Squadron wound up falling 129 to 109 there in Illinois. On Sunday, we took on the Wisconsin Herd at home this past Sunday. And then the game started off with both teams going back and forth throughout the opening minutes, and before the Herd wound up scoring 10 unanswered. Then with Brockington and Crutch hitting a couple threes, they cut the lead to 5 midway through the opening quarter. They did go back and forth before the Squadron wound up cutting the lead to 1. And then the Herd did increase the lead to 9 as the quarter ended. Then we did see in the second the Herd going on a 6-point run before they went back, trading blows. The Herd leading by as much as 24 midway through the second. Birmingham did cut the lead to 13 as going into the locker room as at the half. Unfortunately, the Herd came out of the locker room with a 9-point run. The Squadron did cut the lead to 11 with a run of their own just midway through the third, after they traded blows before the Squadron went on another 7-point run themselves, cutting the lead to 4. The score differential was maintained throughout the rest of the third quarter, and going into the final quarter, the Herd almost immediately went on an 11-point run all the way through to the midway point of the fourth quarter. They would go back and forth with the Herd stretching their lead in the closing minutes of the game and beating the Squadron 118 to 98 at home. As it stands right now, Birmingham is sitting at 2-6 and in last place in the Eastern Conference of the NBA G League, and has the third worst in the entire G League. So we do have a couple matches coming up this weekend, and tonight they're playing at home versus the Wisconsin Herd again. And then they take a trip up to Greensboro to take on the Swarm. And then Saturday, they are at home against the Indiana Mad Ants. And then we also have Sunday game at home versus College Park Skyhawks. So a lot of basketball left to play, guys. So no reason to get too upset about it. Switching things over to the Birmingham Stallions. A few transactions this past week. A lot of transactions, actually. Probably the last few transactions we really needed. Found out on Tuesday that AJ Thomas is back, so great to see him back with the team. And then we also saw on Tuesday that former Crimson Tide cornerback Shaheem Carter signed with the Stallions. So familiar name with a bunch of people here in the Magic City and Alabama as a whole. On Wednesday, they signed inside linebacker Isaiah Moore. And then on Thursday, we saw that they signed defensive end Badley Ane from Utah, wide receiver Jalen Camp from Georgia Tech, cornerback Stephen Gilmore from Marshall, and then wide receiver Tyron Johnson from Oklahoma State. And then on Friday, we saw Tay Crowder get signed. He was a middle linebacker from Georgia. And then during the College Football Playoff National Championship, we also saw another ad released saying that football season has no off season. So football has no off season. So great to see the advertising going through, being real good this past year. A lot better than last year. We're seeing a lot more, engagement with the from the league this year. So it's good to see. Switching things over to the Birmingham Barons, we saw the new coaching staff for this upcoming season released. So good to see that this past week. We posted it on our Facebook and Blue Sky and on X. So we have a new manager, Guillermo Quiros. He was with Winston-Salem Dash last season. 10-year career in the MLB as a catcher. He played with the likes of the Toronto Blue Jays, the Seattle Mariners, Texas Rangers, Baltimore Orioles, Seattle Mariners, Boston Red Sox, and the San Francisco Giants. So, nice career for him. John Kovalik is the pitching coach. He came up with Guillermo from Wisconsin, the Winston-Salem Dash. I keep wanting to say Wisconsin. I don't know why. 3 years in the Indy Leagues, and then also wound up coaching for the Corpus Christi Hooks over there in Texas. So, Nicky Delmonico is back as the hitting coach. And then Daniel Milwee is our bench coach this year. He was in the Sox organization for a while as a catcher before being promoted up to a coach, the bench coach there. So, good to see that. And then AJ Smith is our trainer this year. He was with Kannapolis back in 2023 and then moved up to the Winston-Salem Dash last season and is now with the Birmingham Barons this season coming up. So can't wait to see that. And then Juan Maldonado is back as the performance coach this year. So a lot of action there. I was kind of hoping to hear something pretty soon about the coaching staff because it's not going to be long till they're going to have to report. So I think it's the next couple weeks that they're going to have to report. So can't wait to see who we have on the roster. As soon as we get roster updates, we will let you guys know, whether it's on Facebook or X or Blue Sky or all three probably. So we're trying to get it all across on all three so that you don't miss out. But make sure you follow us on all three so you don't miss out. Switching things over to Shotgun Sports Network Alabama. We do have a new store and items. The store is linked in the description. So make sure that you check that out. We have these shirts right here. As you can see, it's Vulcan with the holding up a toast to the Magic City and with the teams there in the background there. We also have these coasters right here. Just slate coasters. You get a set of 4 on those. And then you have these bottle openers right here, as you can see. Those are brand new. We just got those in, so they're really cool. They're actually the size of a credit card, so you can keep them in your wallet and have them easy, access to them at all times. So that'll help us here in the on the pages. So if you can, we'd love the support. If not, we understand. But in closing, we have the Bulls on the road this coming up weekend with the Squadron at home Saturday and Sunday. And then we're trying to keep you updated on all things roster related and score updates through the week. And then hopefully see some more news from the Barons and the UFL and the Squadron and the Stallions as they ramp up toward their season. So as for this week, my name is Ryan Messer. Y'all have a great night.